Hey, this is John Sadak, TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds, and you're up for Late Night Reds Talk.
What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday night, and unfortunately, tonight, you know what that means, is it's another installment of Late Night Reds Talk after a heartbreaking, just brutal loss tonight to the Atlanta Braves. I am Tim Daniel, your host, who was told last week I have a really shitty Zoom background, so I angled my laptop this time. How did I do this week, guys? All right.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. I'll take 6 out of 10. Does it move me up in the power rankings? I don't know. But
you might be Clay.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's kind of go through the panel here. As always, joining me, Mr. Nick Kirby. How are you?
Not awesome. That was that was a tough one.
It wasn't fun. Wasn't fun. Also joining us as always, Mr. Carlos Guevara. Carlos, how you okay, buddy?
I'm a mess right now. I can't join this stupid thing. My phone's about to go out, and I'm trying to do it on my computer. I'll be back.
Riveting content.
And joining us, you can check him out on Pardon the Punctuation. He has a couple writings out there too. Also with the Locked On Reds with our pal Jeff Carr. This is Mr. Clay Snowden joining us for the first time here on Late Night Reds Talk. Welcome, man. How you doing? Well,
yeah, thanks for having me, Tim. I am willing to admit this now. I've been debating it for the past 7 seconds if I'm willing to admit my Zoom background is plain, but typically it has this obnoxious thing that my fiance decided needs to be on a wall. It just says gather. It's just, what the hell is that? So I take it down whenever I do podcasts so I don't get trashed. So
put it up. Come on.
We're gathering together to talk this painful Reds event.
Hey,
Carlos is here, so we're all gonna gather.
The fiance picked it out. Let it shine, man.
Yeah. So that sucked. Let's just go ahead and jump right to it. That was terrible. Freaking miserable. To come back, take the lead, have your bullpen pitch really well after Wade Miley has a game where he's getting hit pretty hard, and Joey has this fantastic game at the plate. You get these runs in, and then, Lucas Sims coming fresh off the IL gives up the game in the 10th inning. Not good, Bob. Not fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's the theme of the 2021 Cincinnati Reds. I mean, look, they were down 5-0 and they came back. I mean, every night this team's interesting. You can't say they're not. They are must-watch TV just to see what happens. You got 5 shutout innings from the bullpen, 1 hit before the, was that the 10th or was that the 11th? Was it the 11th? I don't know. It all.
How many earned runs is that in 5 innings?
The first 5 was 0. I mean, they
No. So they pitched 6 innings?
The bullpen?
Yeah, they pitched 5 shutout innings. That was
5 2/3, and then 3 earned runs, Nick.
Okay, great. Yeah, that was, the other guys did really good.
That's the real stat you should be giving.
Wow, he's testy. Woo, eef.
Eric Carlos, just let it out, buddy. This is a safe place.
Wow.
Yeah, my kind of takeaway from it originally was, in the beginning of the game, Wade Miley has been so good this year and much better than the Wade Miley that we saw last year. And today he did not have his best stuff. The rain in the beginning probably didn't help too much. What was it? 5 earned runs that he gave up. So a lot of, the bullpen did pitch pretty well afterwards. So a little bit of a reverse of what we've seen, where Miley usually is kind of nails, and it's the bullpen that's kind of slipped away.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, batting wise, I thought, like Nick said, they came back. I know they were 2 of 15 with runners, 3 of 15 with runners in score position tonight, but those 3 hits, I guess, could follow under the clutch factor that the people like to use. But I know it's baseball. These days suck. It happens. But Carlos, I mean, I know you're ready to air your grievances, as I called this before you got on. This is Reds Festivus for all the Seinfeld people. So please show your feats of strength and air your grievances, buddy.
I mean, there's really nothing to say tonight. I mean, other than Sims didn't pitch very well. I mean, he was all over the place. I mean, to be honest, Lorenzen was all over the place. He got lucky as well. But I mean, I think Sims is going back from what I've been saying, ever since they took the sticky stuff away. It's there. It's an issue. It's a big deal. It's not like let's not talk about it. It's his slider is not his slider anymore. His fastball is all over the place. Like it's real.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of seeing that kind of going around baseball, and I think just for us because we're here, you're seeing that image a little bit more. But I think right now the state of we'll kind of play glass half full. Yeah, they've lost 3 in a row. The Indians game was just Luis Castillo having a really bad night, and then yesterday happens. But there's still only 4.5 out of the wild card spot, so there's one reason to be optimistic, right, guys?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, tonight really should have just been a night you lost because your starting pitcher didn't pitch well, but they fought back, and it completely changes the narrative of the game. But I mean, you're not going to win many games when your starting pitcher allows 5 runs in 5 innings. I mean that.
Yeah.
I mean, if they just would have laid down and the game would have been over, that would have been the story. But now the story's different. The thing that really just stinks about this game tonight is, for all Sean Doolittle's flaws, I think he's a pretty solid pitcher against left-handed batters. And I think you saw Derek Johnson come out to kind of tell Sims, hey, if you don't throw one over, right over the plate to Albies, pass the baton. Doolittle's ready. It's a left-handed batter. It's Stephen Vogt, not a very good hitter at this point. That would have been a good matchup for him. That's what I think stinks the most is that didn't have to force the issue there. And it would have been better to obviously would have been better to pass the baton, but yeah, just tough one.
Yeah, and just to touch on that too, Nick, is I think the positive that can be taken away from this game also is just kind of what we touched on about them battling back. Like Atlanta's a pretty good team, and a lot of teams could have easily folded in that moment when Wade Miley, who's been pretty damn good for the Reds, just kind of shit the bed today. And they fought back, they stayed in it, they chipped away, and the bullpen was pitching well, and it just came down to an incredible player hitting the ball out of the park, and that's really what it came down to. But it's it's a good team that they played, and they didn't give up, and it at least gives me hope for kind of like a playoff. If they get into the playoffs, and they're going to obviously play some good teams then, and they weren't completely outmatched.
Yeah, I mean it also was Sims' second game back. I mean, there's a reason the Reds used him as their 6th reliever tonight. They probably don't feel as comfortable with him, yet coming back, off the IL. But yeah, I mean, you had 5 guys throw shutout innings. I know Carlos mentioned, Lorenzen walked 2. That's not good, but he did strike out 2 as well. A lot of good performances tonight, just to leave with the sour taste of one bad pitch and one great swing.
I hate playing in Atlanta. Yeah. I just hate it. I feel like my whole life it has been like anytime the Reds go to Atlanta, something bad happens. Between the 95 and LCS, the Lance Nix ball bounces off the glove and goes over the wall. Last year's playoffs, these games, is there a way the Reds can figure out a way they don't have to go to the Atlanta anymore? Can we put that in their new rule book? Like, we'll give you opening day going somewhere else if we don't have to go to Atlanta. Because it's just
send them to the AL. Send them to the AL.
Yeah, every fucking time they play the Braves. And sorry for my language.
Trade for the Orioles. Trade for the Orioles.
Yeah. I mean, do we get Cedric Mullins in the trade? Because then I'll definitely do it. But yeah, it's just every freaking time they play Atlanta, on the road, something terrible just happens, and frankly, I just hate it.
Yeah, I think Aquino's first home run was in Atlanta, and they blew a game in 2019. I think he hit like a 3-run home run to tie the game, big moment, and then they blew that game too. It just, bad things happen there.
Yeah, I hate the stupid chop. I hate it. I hate Florida State doing it. I hate the Braves doing it. Just hate it. It's stupid.
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense anymore. Yeah, I hate Freddie Freeman because I made him really good again.
He said some nice things in that article that I retweeted. Some guy from, I guess from Atlanta, was talking about Joey being a Hall of Famer, and there was a lot of quotes from Freddie Freeman in there that were pretty
I
good.
saw that. Yeah.
It was really good.
So yeah, I think that, it's obviously just maddening, and we know what this is kind of happening all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, but it's just brutal when they go to Atlanta and those things happen. But look, tomorrow, you got another shot. Vladimir Gutierrez is going to the mound. He's been fairly decent lately. So he has a chance to kind of get them ready for Philly before they face National League MVP candidate Bryce Harper, who all of a sudden is freaking spectacular at baseball again, which is just wonderful. Great. Really good to know.
It's good for the game, Tim.
It is good for the game. I agree, Carlos. But couldn't he have been really awesome the next week? Couldn't that have been when he found his stride?
Yeah.
He's he's
Who do they have lined up pitching? Do you know, Nick?
I know Zach Wheeler's lined up. I think it's Wheeler, Anderson, and is it Nola?
Nola
great.
pitched yesterday, right?
Yeah, I think so. I might can tell you here in a second, but it's tough matchups. But I mean, the Reds do have Castillo, Gray, and Malley.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Reds have their Malley. So it's Malley, Wheeler, Malley on the road too. Malley's been a very, very good pitcher on the road, although that's not a great ballpark. Castillo. Oh, it's Castillo, Matt Moore now. It was Anderson.
Matt Moore. Holy shit.
That's
I
a
saw him
good
in the dugout the other day. I was like, oh shit, he's still in the league.
that should be a good matchup for any other team, but he's a left-hander. So
yeah, and the Reds cannot hit against left-handed pitching for whatever reason.
And then it's Sonny Gray, Aaron Nola. So that's I feel like those are pretty good pitching matchups for the Reds, as good as you're going to get if you're going to have to face Zach Wheeler. At least you got Malley lined up against him.
They got to figure out a way to win tomorrow and then get 2 out of 3. It'll be a fine road trip.
Yeah. The schedule after that, I know.
Yeah.
We've harped on it all year. I mean, that is watch the Cubs the last couple games against the Brewers. I know everyone thinks the Brewers are the big red machine or the big red pitching machine or I don't know, whatever. But that team is bad. We were talking, earlier before we went live. I think the Cubs might be worse than the Pirates right now. They're close. They are very close. Maybe the Cubs bullpen, but I don't know. I mean, that's a bad team. So this is the survival week. It's not been good the first 3 days. The Reds have lost 3 games in the Central. But I mean, you just try to survive the rest of the week, and then you're going to have a lot of favorable matchups the rest of the year. Did you kind of want to touch on that, Tim? I know we want to talk about, kind of go around.
Sure.
Anyone think we still have a chance in the Central, or are you guys all mailing it in?
I still think they have a chance. I mean, it's obviously, they're now 8.5 out after tonight.
I think they're just 8 even.
8 even. Okay.
Just 8.
Just 8 even.
No,
but in 2 weeks you have a chance to get a couple of those games back when you have your last 3 with the Brewers for the season. Like we've said, the schedule is definitely in the Reds' favor, especially, you look at that. So this alone, you look at after the Phillies series, you're home for the Cubs for 3 and the Marlins for 4. You go to Milwaukee for 3, which is obviously going to be tough. And then you play Miami for 3, and you end August with the Cardinals. So, who've played pretty well the last couple of weeks, but also have played the Pirates quite a bit and, teams like that. So yeah, I think you still feel like they have a shot at it. You obviously feel a little better about them getting in the wild card, especially with San Diego kind of struggling with El Tatis. Sorry, Carlos. But I'm not going to count them out of the division just yet.
Yeah, I think that they're still alive. I mean, it's obviously a longer shot that gets longer whenever you have, kind of days when like today, but and I'm not wish injury on anybody type of guy, but I mean, if the Brewers had an injury in their starting rotation, that's just like, that can change a season just like that. As we've talked about, the schedule is going to be, getting easier for the Reds, but I think it really comes down to is Castellanos going to get back to not the MVP level. He was playing out of his mind earlier, but somewhere in between that and what he's been the past, month just prior to the injury and since the injury. And that's my concern is this injury something that could potentially affect how he performs the rest of the season? His numbers in July were not very good. It's not the biggest sample size in the world or anything, but I just think he's been struggling a little bit the past month or so. And it's just, I'm not exactly sure I'm ready to say it's concerning, but it's definitely something I'm going to monitor.
Yeah, I mean, he is just coming back from that injury too. So, I mean, you're going to have to, to give him some time. But, it's been a season where the Reds, I feel like, have had a lot of different guys step up in their lineup at different times. Votto's carried the team. Castellanos and Winker carried earlier. India is, since like the third week of the season's been an all-star caliber player. So yeah, it's been different guys at different times. I definitely don't feel as good as I felt about the Central 3 days ago. When they got it down to 5, I was really feeling good. This is the worst case scenario in 3 days. You lose 3 games and you lose 3 games in the standings. Just can't get any worse than that. So yeah, I definitely think the wild card is definitely the more realistic path. I wouldn't say the Central's completely hopeless, but you're going to need a lot of help at this point. But the 2011, there was 2 teams that were 9 games up on September 1st, and we still got 3 weeks to get there. So not impossible, but I definitely, especially with the Padres having the most difficult strength of schedule remaining, I definitely think the wild card is the most realistic path at this point. And I know people are going to say, well, if they get in the wild card game, they're going to lose. Who cares? Get to the wild card game. If the Reds are playing after 162, who cares? There's been all kinds of fluky things happen in the playoffs. Maybe it almost feels like if the Reds ever do make a run, it's going to be one of these things where no one sees it coming. That's how these things happen.
Last year.
Right. Yeah.
Last year, everything lined up for the Reds. Everything felt great. They were playing a Braves team that, kind of felt like they were maybe, I'm not going to say the word, but, it felt like the Reds were in a favorable matchup and, didn't work out. Maybe this year it's a completely different story. Just get there. Who cares about that? I don't know, Carlos, what is your thoughts on the, sorry, Clay, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, a lot of people, I think, misunderstand that when they talk about, they're not good enough to win. Every year your expectation should not be win the World Series. That in terms of fans, like if you live that, you're going to be disappointed constantly. And like you said, if you just can get into the playoffs, even if you're not as talented, it really has more to do with that, your rotation in the playoffs and being able to set it up to have a matchup that you like. And anything can happen once you get in. It's the crazy, it's a totally different game, that way that it's managed. So yeah, just getting into the playoffs. We're not saying, hey, the Reds are not going to win the World Series, so tear it down.
Yeah.
Well, I've used the reference quite a few times. Would anyone pick the 19 Nationals to get to the Dodgers and then win the World Series? I don't think so.
In the wild card game, they were down 2 runs, right, to the Brewers in like the 8th inning, and there was an error that would have ended their season. Fluky things happen in the playoffs. Just get there.
Yeah, for sure. I think for sure the way is through the wild card. I think there's an outside shot, the Brewers collapse and Reds capitalize on the right days, because that definitely has not been lining up. Every time the Brewers lose, the Reds lose. Every time the Reds win, the Brewers win. So that's been pretty crappy for the last several weeks. But it is what it is now. And so it's like, the eyes on San Diego, really. And those guys have not been pitching well, starters or relievers. So, and that doesn't line up well with the last month, and that last 6-7 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and the good thing for the Reds too is, the NL West has been the division that's given them the most fits this year. They only have 3 games left against an NL West team. It is the Dodgers, but and it's at home.
A little playoff preview.
Yeah.
Reds are 2-1 against the Dodgers, baby.
They are.
We own them.
Yeah.
With Nick Senzel leading off.
That's true.
Jeff Hoffman. I think Senal Perez pitched in a win, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think what was it? The loss was like Sonny Gray went like 6 innings, and then they lost but like it was like 1-0 when he left. And they ended up losing like 7-0.
The Dodgers
crazy
just
like
like
this.
took all their frustration out in like the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Poured it on. It's like, yeah, we already won the series. Whatever, do your thing.
Plus, it's probably more than likely Albert Pujols' last trip at the GABP, which means he'll probably do something to crush our souls in one of those games because it's what he used to do at GABP. I don't remember what he did in the Angels series when they came here for like in 2013, but something tells me I don't want to look at the box scores.
I don't know who I enjoy watching the first base more, Winker or current day Albert Pujols.
It might be a fun foot race. It's not exactly Deion Sanders versus Ricky Henderson. But yeah, I think, the wild card's probably the most realistic route. I think the moves that they've made so far, bullpen wise, as far as like what they did at the deadline, has looked pretty good so far. Givens and Sessa have been really good. Please God, don't fall apart now that I say that, because I have a tendency to make that happen. But
only for other teams.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, Bryce Harper's an MVP candidate. He's been terrific. And like, I want to say bad things about other Philly players, but I know that like, if I do, that former MVPs will crush us.
No.
Yes, exactly. I'm staying away from it.
They are all gods in Philly. We respect them. We adore them. They are successful men, and we bow down to the Philadelphia Phillies. Right, Tim?
Yes.
Thank
yes. Because nothing bad for the Reds has ever happened in Philadelphia either. Gosh. All right. So let's kind of go. Let's get some hot topics around here. So Mike Moustakas returned to the lineup. His Friday night game, his return game, has an awesome game with 3 doubles. Had a couple of days off, played at second base today while Jonathan India came in. And the conversation, obviously, we've been getting, since he's been injured, has been, well, what do the Reds do when Moustakas comes back? And Nick had kind of had the idea where he talked about maybe the platoon between Votto, India, and Moustakas and Suarez. And then now Votto's hitting too well to take out of the lineup at all. Thank God. It's been terrific to watch. But, now this idea is coming up of maybe a full-on platoon between Suarez and Moose at third base. For you guys, you're curious kind of your thoughts there. I know Moose didn't have the best night at the plate tonight, and I know we're all pro Gino guys, but kind of curious what you guys are thinking about that process.
I think Gino's been hitting the ball pretty well, hadn't he, the last couple of weeks? Or am I just remembering the highlights?
He had 4 home runs. He just missed one. One of the ones he hit tonight was a double. Wasn't far away from home. But yeah, he's been swinging the bat. I mean, as good as he's done all year.
Oh, I thought he was doing like a lot better for some reason. Anyway,
for 2021 Gino, yeah, but not for any.
Yeah,
before.
I mean, they have to platoon him, I think, at this certain point right now, unless you're going to get, start giving Farmer more days off. I don't know who's going to play short when that happens. Spell Joey over there at first base. I mean, he hadn't had an off day for a while, but just try to move around as best as you can. And, it's going to, I think it'll probably piss Moose off more than it would Gino at this point, because Gino's had the entire season. He's been given his opportunities, and to have Moose back, I just I was talking to Nick about it. Like, I really hope it doesn't affect the clubhouse, because that's certainly the type of thing at this time of year that can. You start losing some games, and you got a veteran who's been around a while, won some World Series, and still feels he can play, and we all know that he can. But then you're telling him to platoon. That's like, it's kind of rough. It's David Bell's got some tough work on his shoulders.
Yeah, I think what I would say is this week is going to feel like the platoon is a big deal, but I kind of think after you get past this week, the Reds don't see, as we've seen most of the Reds don't see that many left-handed pitching, which for the most part is a really good thing for this team. Most of the teams in the division don't have a left-handed starter. So they're not going to see a whole lot. So I don't think it'll be as big of a deal. I hope that, I think Carlos's point is really good. It's something that, us nerds sitting at home don't think about. You don't want that to upset the locker room. But I would hope that there was a conversation with Moustakas. Hey, you're coming back. We're going to ease you. We don't want to lose, Suarez. We want him to get some starts. We're going to have an opportunity to kind of play you guys. But look, here, let me show you the schedule ahead. This team doesn't have a left-handed starter. This team doesn't have a left-handed starter, and maybe kind of have those conversations going. And then, I would expect Joey's probably going to get either tomorrow or Saturday off against the left-handed pitcher because he does need, a day off, like Carlos says. I would think maybe it was tomorrow, but maybe now they're gonna, after he hit a bomb off a left-handed pitcher, maybe they're saying, oh, let's hold off till Saturday. But then that's another start. You saw India get spelled tonight, so I think it felt like a big deal the first couple days. I don't think in the grand scheme of things it's as big of a deal as you think. And the other thing kind of to think about with this is, remember, if any of these guys go down, if Moustakas gets hurt again, which he's gotten hurt quite a bit, or if, God forbid, India or Votto went down, Suarez is going to be the guy who's going to have to start. So I think they want to keep, Suarez somewhat engaged so they're not just completely, hey, ride the bench for 3 weeks. Okay, now you're starting, I think that's maybe also a piece of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea to platoon them. In terms of like defense, we all know Suarez isn't some elite defender. Not that Moose is, but I think Moose is better at third than Suarez. Backup shortstop, I hope Suarez does not fill that. I know that Nick Senzel did play shortstop in his rehab assignment, so when he comes back, maybe he'll fill in that void of, because right now, the backup shortstop position, it's kind of empty. But yeah, if Moose plays some at first base, I honestly did not expect him to play even second base like tonight. I was kind of surprised to see that. I'm not complaining about it or anything, but that injury that Moose has, I had something similar to it. And of course, I'm not an athlete and I'm also not getting professional care, but that's not an injury that just like when it's gone, it's gone. Like that's one of those injuries that can come back. If you overuse it, comes back as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get a bunch of days in a row of playing time. And maybe it looks different than what it could be, but maybe it's just resting him, trying to keep him healthy, because that's a nagging injury that can definitely linger.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of factors to it. I think it makes sense, and I don't think I'd make, and the numbers too. I know Moustakas over his career hasn't been a massive split guy like some other players on the Reds, but the last 2 years, Suarez actually has a higher OPS against left-handed pitching. So it's just one of these things. There's plenty of other things to complain about. I'd probably lean that direction.
I can't point out real quick, Evan Maurer in the chat bringing up obviously Jose Barrero, and his OPS being against lefties in AAA is near 800. And last year even he hit 300 against lefties. So I know that's a name that everyone keeps on the tip of their tongue, especially with September call-ups coming up soon. So, at some point he's gonna, the way he's hitting, the way that he's been consistent at hitting at that, especially in AA this year, it feels like at this point, it's just a matter of time before he's on the big league roster. I don't know what that means as far as is he starting at shortstop by any means, but I feel like he's forcing the conversation, at least, that he should be on the ball club.
Yeah, I think he'll be on. Like, is there a certain time before the service time kicks in, Nick, or he can come on now and it counts the same?
They already came up last year. I really don't think they already started his clock, and then last year it was like a massively accelerated clock because it was prorated based on the season. So I'm not smart enough to calculate where he's at. Yeah. I don't think that really is part of the equation. Clay, do you have some input on that?
I think he's good to go in terms of service time. It will not that wouldn't be like a factor if I'm right on that. I'm pretty sure.
I just don't think they want to call him up and have him. They want him getting every day at bats. Now, maybe when we start getting into September, and there's, I know the minor league season goes all the way to the end of September, right, Evan? Like normally it would be done by the second week of September, and then you say, oh yeah, just call him up because he can't play. But they actually can play all the way because they started a month late. So
I mean, he's going to play winter balls, so that last month doesn't mean anything of September. Like, so
yeah, I would say
they're got to call him up in September. They have to.
Yeah, I would say around September 1st. But again, if there's an injury, he'll probably be,
Yeah, he'd be the first one.
Right, it would be right up. So
if they don't call him up in September, there's something really wrong.
Yeah, he's
got to be one of the extra 3 guys that they add.
Yeah, Clay, what's your thoughts on a Green and Lodolo? Do you think that they are ready? Where are you at since you followed?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Jose real quick too. He's looked obviously great this year. I've watched a lot of his at bats, and he's actually gotten better from what I saw even at the beginning of the year, especially when I was at the alternate site. He was kind of struggling. I know that's really early in this season, but I'm excited for how much he's seems to have just grown as a hitter and being willing to take some pitches. I was watching, I think it was last night, when he was laying off pitches that I never thought he could have laid off of. So that's a positive sign. In terms of Green and Lodolo, everything that I've seen from watching them, I think that they're both, still on track to be plus starters. Aram Layton, who is a prospect reporter and writer, actually spoke to a few players that have faced both of the pitchers, and all of the players he talked to said that Lodolo stuff is actually harder to hit right now, and that Green's was a little bit more flat. It's fast, but if you can hit, 102, 103, you're going to hit it pretty good. So I think that I actually think that maybe Lodolo is a little bit further along. He pitched in college. He's a little bit older, probably a little bit more polished. I don't think his ceiling is as high as Green's, but I think maybe his floor is a little bit higher. And the reason why I think that's because I think no matter what, he's going to stick in the starting role. And I can see where, I don't think it's a very high chance, but I can see where there is a chance that Green could potentially move to the bullpen at some point. I don't want it, Tim. Trust me, I don't want it.
Don't say that.
But you know how that gets once it's, especially the people that are saying bring him up now to put him in the bullpen. I'm anti any of that.
I'm totally anti that. Totally anti.
Too many times these players seem to go to the bullpen and they don't come back. I know Carlos probably has a lot more insight on that than I do, but I don't want to see Green in the bullpen, honestly, especially it's not like we're in the World Series and, this isn't David Price in the,
this isn't Blake Snell,
it's a different situation.
And he's coming off surgery, and then he hasn't been in the bullpen at all. And then all of a sudden in September, you want him to start throwing back-to-back days. No, that doesn't work. That's not going to work. Like, if you're going to bring him up, like, he's going to have to start, or he's going to be a long reliever and that's it. Or he's going to throw 1 inning and he's going to get 2 days off.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to push him like that. It doesn't make any sense medically to do that. I don't think they will. And I mean, from what you said about Lodolo, like, I feel like he's, further ahead as well. And the small amount that I've seen them pitch, I mean, his breaking stuff, off speed stuff is way ahead of I'm sorry,
Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter Green's. Yeah, it's like light years ahead of it. And that fastball in the big leagues is going to get hit.
Clay, do you think Lodolo, would you have any, just because the Reds, left-handed relief pitching is lacking at the not the moment, the season, would you have any interest in him coming up as a reliever? Kind of maybe since he doesn't really profile as a reliever as much, maybe he'd be a little safer to transition back and forth.
I would say maybe, but they're going to have to start doing that in AAA here pretty quick.
He's only
take him out of the starting role and let him basically do a rehab assignment. Okay, like, you're going to have 2 weeks where you're going to get ready for a reliever to be in a reliever role, and then September they're going to need you.
He's only pitching like 3 innings at a time right now, right, Clay?
Yeah, he's kind of been injured and he's been up and down some and had a blister issue. So yeah, he hasn't pitched a ton. But the only issue I have with that, Nick, is I think that if a starter were to get injured, I don't I like him more than the other option. So I would rather keep him where he is right now, just in case. And you know what? It may sound like I'm a coward saying this, but like if he just starts the rest of the year in AAA and that's it for this season, like I'm actually okay with that. But I'd rather have him ready to go and working towards being stretched out and being able to be called up right away. I think, the Tony Santillan's of the world are more of the reliever types, and they've transitioned him into a reliever. I don't want to see like a Jeff Hoffman start or anything like that if I don't have to. So those guys have been transitioned into relievers. I'd rather keep Lodolo and AAA ready to go in case, Gray's kind of been nicked up some this year. I mean, I don't know. I just want that safety blanket.
That's a good point.
I like that point a lot, actually.
Yeah, I do think it's probably more likely than not that there is a starting pitcher injury at some point, not just to the Reds, but to the Brewers, to
Baseball. Yeah.
the Padres. I mean, we have no idea how these pitchers are going to respond down the stretch after the short season.
So they're going to add what, 3 players in September or 2?
3? I think it's
Two.
two, so it's 28.
26 to 28, not 25 to 28.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Jose and then one other guy, right?
Yeah.
It'd probably be like Santillan since he's been with the big league roster.
They're already at,
Yes,
they're already at
so-
14 pitchers, so I don't know how.
That's true.
I mean, they only have 4 position players. When you're on a 26-man roster and you only got 4,
You know what's probably going to happen? It's just like
Senzel's not.
Blandino's just going to come up or something like,
Yeah.
and everyone's going to be like, well, shit. I mean,
Mike
now
Freeman,
it's
baby,
Blandino.
your backup shortstop.
Yeah, I saw he got optioned to Louisville today from being activated from the
Okay,
DL.
I know you all don't want to go down this hole, but I just got to ask, like, why did he get 0 opportunities last year? And then this year, in the beginning of the year, was like getting a ton of opportunities when he was perfectly healthy. Like, did they just decide this winter that they believed in Alex Blandino?
I guess they saw that he was getting walks.
Nick always tells me the only stats that matter are batting average and RBI.
Big RBI guy.
Yeah.
Rib
Big
ass.
fond.
Yeah, I don't get why Blandino played so much.
He was like filling in for when Joey would have an off day. He'd be playing first base. You're like, wait, what?
So I'm looking at the 40-man roster right now just to try to get an idea.
Sure.
I don't really think, in terms of who they would call up, it would definitely just be like Alejo Lopez, Max Strock, or Mike Freeman, right? I mean, they've already shown that it like something about those guys enough to play them a pretty decent amount. And, if you wanted to bring Max Strock up, I mean, I think he's shown enough to earn the call up for, the extra guy off the bench, lefty bat with at least some pop and position flexibility, I guess.
Yeah, well, remember Nick Senzel's not on the roster either right now, so
Right.
I doubt they're holding him off till September. I don't think they can. I think his time would run out. I think it's 21 days. So I would imagine Senzel replaces a pitcher, and then they go down to 13 for however long they have. And then I think it's probably Schrock, because he could definitely help the team off the bench, although he's just another left-handed bat. They have a million of those. And then it's probably a pitcher. So I don't know.
They could bring up your boy Alejo Lopez, a little switch hitter. The Reds are afraid of having switch hitters on the roster.
So are they still going to be able? So once they call those guys up, are they going to be able to send guys up and down because AAA and AA are still playing?
Yeah, they can send guys up and down.
Oh,
But there's a lot of 40-man issues and a lot of option issues. Like the Reds don't have a single pitcher in their bullpen right now that they can send to AAA. Anyone has to be DFA'd. So that
Don't you have to be on the 40-man roster in the beginning of September to be able to be on the playoff roster?
Yes.
Yes, I think that you have to be in the organization. That's
Okay.
That's the biggest part of that. But I believe there's a workaround if you're replacing a player who's been injured, which everyone can kind of claim they're replacing a player that's been injured.
Brad
Let's
Broxton.
say John Doolittle is injured, and he gets replaced, or whoever they choose to for
You're good.
I think there's a workaround for that. It just like when the Reds had who was it, Willie Bloomquist, he was like the not eligible because they, for whatever reason, traded for him on like September 4th or something like that.
Got to bring him in to play 6 games in the Reds uniform, you know.
Yeah. The new coach at Arizona State, Willie Bloomquist.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's the head baseball coach there now.
is Marvin still the defensive coordinator? Marvin Lewis?
I think he's got some sort of job with them now because because he interviewed for a bunch of NFL head coaching jobs and did not get any of them.
Wow, that's that's a star-studded college out there.
Yeah. So Clay, I kind of wanted to ask you too. I know because you pay pretty good attention to the minor leagues the team has. So Matt McClain today made his debut for the Dragons. Went deep. Did you get a chance to see the game, or did you have any thoughts on him just
yet? I was not
yet?
able to. I was traveling today for work and just haven't been able to catch up on all that. But I think it was 4 for 5 with a double, a home run, and 5 RBIs, if I remember correctly, which I'd say is, at least good, right, for your first game at that level. So yeah, he's a guy that I'm not going to act like I know a bunch about these players that were just drafted. I don't watch college baseball. There's just far too much out there to keep up with. But from what I've heard and read, he's a guy who right now is playing shortstop, but they're not sure if he will stick there or not. I hope that he does, especially just because the organizational depth at shortstop is somewhat lacking. I mean, you have Jose Barrero, but past that, I mean, Errol Robinson is a 26-year-old guy who can't hit in Double-A. I mean, there's just not a lot going on there. So if they could somehow at least make him manageable at shortstop, that would be good. But he could slide to the outfield as well long term. But also Francisco Urbaez was just called up to Double-A, a guy who's been raking in Dayton this year. So he can play a little bit of short, a little bit of second and third. So he's another name to kind of keep an eye on.
Did McClain play in Daytona at all?
I think he played a handful of games, very few.
Yeah,
I
because
think he played like less than 5 games.
Yeah, that's got to be a good sign, right? Unless the Reds are just really screwed at shortstop.
Yeah, I don't. Sometimes from what I understand, is a lot of times with these lower organizations, sometimes you just are slotted also where the opportunity is for your position. So if they didn't really have somebody playing shortstop, and like for him, out of college, and I'm not sure exactly who the shortstop is off the top of my head in low A. I'm trying to pull up let's see what he did. Yeah. 4 for 5, 2 runs, 5 RBIs, Nick's favorite stat, 1 strikeout.
His strikeout, the strike 3 pitch, I saw a photo shot. It was like 8 inches outside.
Yeah, it was a terrible call. I did
so
see
bad.
that.
Yeah, so he's played in I'm trying to pull up the amount of games. Yeah, he played in he played in 1 game, 2 games for like the rookie league or whatever.
Yeah.
MILB.com is kind of a shitty website, honestly.
Well,
I would
there's our
love for them to
sponsorship.
invest like $35 and hire the local nerd to run it, but whatever.
I can't believe that MILB TV doesn't have an app for like a smart TV. Like that's
I know.
insanity.
Well, the app, like for your phone and iPad and everything, is complete shit. It'll just like shut down randomly. But I just watch on a laptop, but yeah, it's definitely very poor in terms of the apps.
Don't you have the bar at the bottom that doesn't go away on a laptop? Or
You guys have obviously never had NBA League Pass, and how terrible that is.
I did a long time ago. Jimmer Fredette, baby. I had League Pass for Jimmer, and then that was the extent of it.
Former Chicago Bull, Jimmer Fredette.
Former Chicago Bulls legend, Jimmer Fredette. Thank you very much.
Is he playing in like Shanghai or something now?
Yeah. Shanghai Sharks.
Shanghai Sharks.
Dominating over there.
Averages like 46 a game.
There's just like a bunch of dudes in college right now with like a Shanghai Sharks jersey, just thinking it's cool as hell. Like,
didn't he score like 70 or something last year?
81. Like I think it was like He has like 83 or something like that.
Kobe Bryant wants to be him so badly. Kobe Bryant wants to be Jimmer so badly.
I actually saw Jimmer play. I covered TBT one time, and Jimmer played when I was like covering, and I was like, this is in this small little college gym in Columbus. Jimmer walks on the court, and I was like, this is kind of cool.
I snuck Jimmer Fredette into late night Reds Talk Live, and I'm happy. You know what? Screw the loss. This was a successful night. On McLean, one question for you, Clay. Just kind of curious your thoughts. So if he follows the Senzel path of like when he would get caught up. Now I know Senzel had an injury too. That'd be 2024.
12 injuries.
Well, no, in the minors before he got.
Okay.
So Senzel would how long it took. I just did the math. If same amount of time in the minors, he'd be up in 2024. You think he's up here before or at 2024 or after?
It's going to be interesting. They move the college kids by a little bit quicker at times. I think it could now with Senzel. He was changing a position, and then they wanted to move him into the outfield. So, but that actually happened at the major league level. If McLean is changing positions, I think it could take a little bit longer just so he gets those extra reps at left field or wherever they could shift him to. 2024, let's see. Yeah, that's not unreasonable to think. If he keeps hitting like this, hell, it could be sooner than that. But yeah, I'd say that's probably a pretty good timeline to hold right now. It also just depends on what's going on with the major league roster at that time. But I think it's a good pick. Everything I've read about him has been positive. It's just, for me, it's like half these college kids it's just such a roll of the dice. You don't really know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a lot though. Like, I mean, Carlos can attest to this more than any of us, obviously, but being drafted for Major League Baseball is got to be way harder than just about everywhere else because it's just, well, first off, there's 60 rounds. I know there's only 20 this year. But then, the chance of you making it over this guy and that guy are so hard. You see, I should say maybe my correct answer I'm saying is like, I feel like you see more guys who don't live up to potential in baseball than you any other professional sport.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I would say the most similar is hockey because it is kind of like a world of talent. Like you're drafting from different countries. This isn't the NFL where it's like, all right, here's your Power 5 schools, like pick a center, So yeah, you're drafting all over the place, and it is a lot different. You're bringing in kids at 17 and 18 years old, and just hoping that they live up to that potential. So yeah, it seems like it's a lot more of a crapshoot, especially if you look outside of the top 10. Like if you just go back through first round drafts, like you'll never know half the players in the first round that are selected.
Yeah. I think,
or you can just look at the Reds first round drafts.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Gosh.
Is Philip Irvin still playing somewhere?
Last I heard, he was playing for the Mariners.
He's not playing for the Mariners. That was last year. Then he played for the Cubs actually after that. But I think he was with the Braves for a minute. I just know that there's somebody on Twitter that's Philip Irvin stan, and they just love Philip Irvin.
When Philip Irvin was drafted, he was compared to Andrew McCutchen.
I'd say he didn't live up to that.
No, he didn't.
Hey, he's still young. He's still young.
I
did write an article one time about how he needed to be the platoon with Jesse Winker, and it was going to take the Reds to the promised land. Like it was the easiest thing in the world, right? Irvin Winker platoon.
Carlos and I were cracking up about that the week of the draft this year. When they're like Henry Davis, he's Mike Piazza with a little Ivan Rodriguez with some Johnny Bench upside, and you're like,
so many Hall of Famers were drafted this year.
Right?
Yeah, that's my my rule of thumb is you can never compare a draft pick to anyone that had a Hall of Fame type career because it's just stupid. I mean, you would just look stupid 95% of the time. It happens in football a lot. In like the fourth round, they get like a developmental safety, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy, is Troy Polamalu." No, he's not.
I mean, arguably the greatest hitter who's ever played, Mike Trout, got missed by a lot of guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this guy's Mike Trout, but he wins 17th overall somehow.
It's fun stuff. Yeah, that guy's Ken Griffey Jr. Never forget. Yeah. Well, I think over this point now, we'll go ahead and kind of get this wrapped up. Did I miss anything? Do we have any questions in the chat that we want to get to before we roll?
No, more just some colorful banter. So yeah, we appreciate the interaction, and thanks so much for guys for watching. Sorry to
my questions.
Sorry to the people that I've blocked before. I'm sure you deserved it. So
You're not sorry.
yeah, I'm not sorry. I pretty much everyone earns it. So God bless.
Hey, you gotta. I mean, if you're gonna be the Skip Bayless of this show, you gotta not block people so we can still have viewers.
Well,
we're doing all right. We're doing okay. So for next week,
they're still viewing because they're commenting that I blocked them. So maybe it creates more. I don't know.
Quit blocking me.
So for next week, we will not have an actual live show. We are going to be on vacation, so we won't be filling you guys in after the 12:35 Cubs game. Nick and I put together a really cool episode. We kind of go through our favorite Joey Votto memories, or I joked that if you watch Friends, I joked it was the one about Joey Votto. That's what this episode is coming up. But Nick and I had a lot of fun putting that one together for you guys, so I hope you like it. But yeah, so the week after that, they play the Brew Crew at 8:00. So it looks like we'll have another late start that night for Late Night Reds Talk Live. So thank you all again, as always, for tuning in. And I'll say it like I do each and every week. If you have, 14 seconds of your day and you have an iPhone, please go to your podcast app, search Late Night Reds Talk Live, and give us a nice solid 5-star reviews, because it's the only way we're going to beat the algorithm. And no, not algae rhythm. If you've seen Space Jam: A New Legacy, the algorithm. So thank you all again. Have a great night, and we will talk soon.
See you.